CBS News, I'm Jim Sheneby. It was another rough and tumble day on Wall Street with the Dow down at 565 points before recovering for a loss at the close of 1.6%.
There's deepening concerns about not just the global economy, but the U.S. economy. The worry is that things are slowing in China, that the slowdown in China is being transmitted throughout the world, and it will ultimately affect the U.S. and maybe even lead to a recession.
Economist Hugh Johnson, CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger blames panic selling in part.
We just know that investors tend to buy and sell at the wrong times, which is why most people would say stick to your diversified portfolio and hang on. You're allowed to be nervous, but you should try not to do anything.
Asian markets have posted some modest gains Thursday after a rebound in oil prices. Well, a nasty winter storm is gearing up in the Ohio Valley and is expected to be a major snowmaker for the big cities of the Northeast over the next 2 to 3 days. United Airlines already backed up with people trying to rebook flights.
Because of severe weather affecting our operations, we're receiving more calls than we typically do, and your hold time may be longer than usual.
Correspondent Jim Krasula.
What's expected to be a major, perhaps historic storm has already prompted winter storm and blizzard watches across parts of Virginia, West Virginia, and Maryland, including metropolitan Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. Areas of the Blue Ridge and Appalachian Mountains could get more than 2 feet of snow, and hurricane-force winds are possible along the coast.
Senate Democrats filibustered a Republican bill already approved by the House that would have slowed the flow of refugees into the U.S. from Iraq and Syria until better vetting procedures are in place. Correspondent Stephen Portnoy.
The roll call brought all 3 GOP senators running for president back to the Capitol. Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and Rand Paul each voted to curb the influx of refugees, but backers fell 5 votes short of breaking a Democratic-led filibuster. The measure overwhelmingly passed the House before Thanksgiving, but it dies in the Senate. Democrats argued refugees already get more scrutiny than any other foreigners who aim to come to the U.S.
Flint, Michigan's water problems have become the Super Bowl of political football, with Democrats demanding the ouster of Republican Governor Rick Snyder, blaming his administration for approving a disastrous switch to Flint River water, which led to the contamination. Snyder, who now faces a lawsuit and recall effort, says he's working to fix the problem.
That process will probably take anywhere from another month to 2 or 3 months. It could take longer. The point here is it shouldn't be about just how fast it is or setting a timetable, but it's really going to be based on making sure that extensive tests show there's not an issue or risk to citizens.
Lawyers for Ethan Couch, the Texas teen involved in the so-called affluenza drunk driving case, have told Mexican officials they want to drop their fight against his deportation to the U.S. He faces charges of violating his probation. This is CBS News.
WBZ News Time, 12:03. We check traffic on the 3s with the Subaru dealers of New England all-wheel drive traffic on the 3s.
And overall, a good ride on area roadways on this overnight. West of town, the Mass Turnpike, I-90, pretty much moving at the speed limit ride through Newton and Natick. No issues out by 290 and out by 84 in Sturbridge. Now, south of town, lower into 128 south. Watch for some minor delays approaching work crews both ways, right around the Highland Ave stretch. We've got some lane closures there. They'll be out there throughout the overnight. Elsewhere, lower end of Route 3 is moving okay. The expressway is in pretty good shape downtown, though. Watch for some work crews northbound inside the O'Neill Tunnel. You can expect some lane closures through that stretch. North of town, upper end of 128, so moving okay for the most part. Watch for work crews around Route 2 in Lexington. Upper end of Routes 3, 93, and 95 in good shape. At Route 1, no real issues to report between the Linfield Tunnel and the Chelsea area. This report being brought to you by the Extraden Temporal Scanner Thermometer. The Extraden Temporal Scanner Thermometer is so fast, accurate, and easy that it takes the hassle out of taking a temperature. It's an awesome purchase. Every new parent should have one. Pick one up at your local club warehouse or other fine retailers today. I'm Lou Michaels in the WBZ 24-hour traffic network.
Here's the 4-day WBZ AccuWeather forecast.
Overnight, it'll be partly cloudy and brisk, the low 21. For later on Thursday, mostly sunny, highs close to 30. On Thursday night, clear and very chilly, a low of 17. And then for Friday, partly sunny, the high 30. Saturday, increasingly windy. Snow should develop Saturday afternoon. It'll continue at varying rates into Sunday. The total accumulation close to 6 inches. However, there still is some uncertainty on the track and the total accumulation. But for now, a half a foot should be pretty sufficient to cause problems. The high Saturday, 33. The low at night, 24. And Sunday's high, 32. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Kara Babinski, WBZ News Radio 1030.
I'm Don Huff, WBZ News. As the Patriots prepare for this weekend's AFC Championship game in Denver, comes word that linebacker Darius Fleming played in last weekend's divisional win with nearly 24 stitches in his right leg. Turns out he had kicked out the window of a burning car on Route 1, rescuing a woman trapped inside.
I realized she wasn't able to get out the car. So when I noticed the smoke started to build up inside, I was like, I'm going to help her out. Just, go open the door. They wouldn't open. I don't know if the doors are jammed or what, but so I just said, I saw she started to panic. So that made me like, all right, I got to get out the window. So I started kicking the window. Didn't break right away, and then it broke, and I pulled her out.
Fleming says he does not consider himself a hero. Governor Baker later today delivers his State of the Commonwealth address. The governor says he expects to talk about issues critical to the state's future, as well as a lot of great things Massachusetts has going for it. The Boston Symphony Orchestra is out with its Tanglewood schedule. One of the highlights, says managing director Mark Volpe, the return of Seiji Ozawa.
We have Seiji coming back for the first time in about a decade. He's going to be leading an academy that focuses on chamber music, and then we're going to combine his kids from Europe with our kids from the world at Tanglewood and have a great experience with Seiji. And then he's going to, of course, conduct a piece with the Boston Symphony.
In sports, the Raptors beat the Celtics 115-109. Don Huff, WBZ News Radio 1030.
This is Bill Kelly. Don't be an investment crash test dummy. In 1999 and 2007, pundits proclaimed there was nowhere to go but up. We sat on a cliff and quickly, violently went over the edge, and we crashed to the bottom. Don't be a victim. Crash test your portfolio now. 888-800-1881 for a free portfolio stress test. Stand up for yourself. Sit with us. Stress test your portfolio now before it's too late. Discover crash-proof strategies that can work for portions of your investments and retirement accounts. 888-800-1881. Come to my events this January and February at the Tuscan Kitchen and Marriott Burlington. Weekdays and Saturdays. 888-800-1881. Last year we seated thousands. Get your own copy of my books, Senior Safe Money Strategies, 2016 by the Numbers, and Bailey Brook Farm. 888-800-1881, yours for the asking, yet priceless. Call now, 888-800-1881.
He can quadruple a double entendre. His cutting wit must be registered with the police as a deadly weapon. All his dreams have become movies. He is the most interesting man on radio.
I don't always talk on the radio, but when I do it on WBZ.
Jay Talkin' with Bradley J.
Stay curious, my friends.
And stay tuned. WBZ News Radio 1030.
26 degrees. Last night it was 19 degrees, so that's a gain. Oh, excuse me. Looks like I might be right. I made a prediction. So far, I think my prediction is holding up, that we would not get the big snow for the rest of the year, and at no point would we get a snow deeper than 11 inches as measured at Logan Airport. And people actually emailed me, "Are you ready to recant yet? Big storm coming, Bradley J." Well, I'm still holding to it. I don't think they'll get 11 inches here. The big snow is going to be in D.C., Maryland. That's what I think. So far, I'm hanging in there and right. And the answer to those of you who asked me if I'm going to retract my statement, not yet. If it happens, I certainly will. What else? Later on, as you know, Glenn Fry died. Glenn Fry of Eagles fame. And many people are saying the Eagles were the best American band of all time. And I'm not buying that. And I think we can do better. Later on, I'll ask you about that. American rock band. The Eagles, really? No. I mean, maybe. It's up to you guys to decide. But first, also, later, recently, the other day, a couple days ago, there was an incident in Worcester where there was a parking ban, but they didn't tell them in time. So people didn't know they had to move their car, and they told a bunch of people who had no idea they were supposed to move their car. City apologized, but the point is, the parking is a nightmare. I don't think I've ever parked my car without getting a ticket, and I've gotten towed. And I do want to talk about getting towed nightmares. Not now, though. But that's, just to keep you excited about the future. Right now, we're going to continue our clean energy, our Massachusetts and actually national energy debate on what to do about energy. People are phasing out coal, nukes phasing out. So what do we do? Do we hang in there for wind and solar, or do we go with natural gas? With us is Joel Wool, Clean Energy Campaign Organizer for Clean Water Action. Hello.
Hey, Bradley. Thanks for having me on. I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. You went to Emerson College?
I did, right here in Boston.
When did you go?
I think I finished there at 2010.
Cool. Producer Mark Lavallo went there as well. Many people go there from here. Yeah. And did you meet Rex Traylor?
No, I don't think so.
Didn't Rex Traylor teach there? Oh, all right. So that was earlier? All right.
I'm
Rex
a youngin'.
Traylor, you know who he was? I'll tell you who he was. We're in no hurry. Trust me, we have no. He's a local legend. He had a TV show called Boomtown. He dressed up in Western stuff, and it was like Captain Kangaroo of cowboys, kind of. But that doesn't mean anything to you either.
No, I got Captain Kangaroo. Don't worry.
And he actually became an instructor over there at Emerson, I believe. In the video, was it video, Mark? Television department. Okay. So you went to Emerson and you got
and I clearly need to refresh my pop culture is the clear lesson here.
Yeah, man. So we talked last night about natural gas and the proposed pipelines, the Kinder Morgan line and the other one, and we had a gentleman, Peter Shattuck, was it, who was opposed to it. Basically, it seemed on climate change grounds, and we had a pretty convincing opponent in his name was Benji Borowski, and it was a good hour. And continuing with that, we have you in here. And we're talking with you a little more along the lines of, well, fracking. That's what I'm interested in. Because I hear mixed things about it. I mean, I hear terrible things about it, yet we still do it. I hear terrible things about it, but the natural gas and the stuff that comes out of the ground from it is super cheap, and that's a big deal. So I'm trying to figure out the balance of whether it's worth it or not. What is actually, can you frame the energy debate?
Sure. Yeah. Well, you started off in the right way. We're in a major point of transition in Massachusetts and New England. We're losing a couple of power plants. And that comes with pros and cons. We're going to have a lot less air pollution, right? We're going to have healthier people. Also, some of the sources of energy like coal are just uneconomical right now. Nuclear has also been very expensive. So there's real reasons why those are going offline. That also means a lot for the communities that are losing them, the people who work in these facilities. So it's a major question of sort of what power do we use, what's the jobs equation that with our energy sources, how do we provide for people, and how do we keep the lights on? All these questions are things that we have to answer. Our position is that we can do it with a diverse clean energy mix. So when you say clean energy, right, we're not really just talking about one energy source. We're talking about wasting less power. We're talking about things like solar and wind. Yes, we're talking about new industries like offshore wind. And we're talking about making the best use of the existing infrastructure.
Isn't natural gas clean? Isn't clean relative?
I don't think clean is relative personally. I think clean is about if you're putting out sulfur dioxide, if you're putting out chemicals that into the air that cause serious harm to public health. If you're building compressor stations along pipelines that whether it's in the South Shore, Western Mass, the Merrimack Valley, that are going to have serious impact, serious noise as well in communities. I don't think that's a relative equation at all. It's why you see literally thousands of people in Massachusetts, and some of them are a little outside of Boston, but certainly in the West Roxbury and the South Shore, it's not too far away. In some cases it's in Boston, but we see people very strongly opposing some of the gas infrastructure developments, and it's not simply this NIMBYism thing. There really are preferential alternatives. It's not just a question of clean or dirty. It's also a question of, are we going to put the risk for our energy future on consumers, or are we going to put it on the big energy companies? And unfortunately, the shift has been to put all of the, not just the environmental, but the financial risk onto consumers. So we are pushing back on that as well.
I want to ask you about that, the risk and who should shoulder the risk. But I do want to invite folks to call. And my question to you, as I frame your involvement in that, it's pretty simple. Hey, fracking gives us all this cheap energy. It just comes in the pipes. Compared to digging it out of the ground, and compared to buying it from Saudi Arabia, it's awesome. Look at the price of gas. How do you feel about it? Are you okay with that? Does it irritate you that clean energy campaign organizers come in here and tell you that's no good? Or does what the clean energy organizer says resonate with you? Do you think, oh, man, we really got to be careful about this? Where are you on this? 617-254-1030. Deep down in your heart, in your gut, you're either for fracking or against it. You're kind of happy it exists or you're kind of not happy it exists. Which one are you? I'm not supposed to be on the fence as a talk show host. I'm supposed to have an opinion and stick by it even if it's wrong. But I'm in the information gathering stage now. I'm getting information from Joel Wood, and I want to get some information from you. A lot of you guys are pretty smart. A lot of you gals are pretty smart. I want to hear your opinion, maybe your reason for it. And then after a while, I will formulate my unchangeable opinion. 617-254-1030. It's WBZ. Quick break and more with Joel Wool and you on WBZ.
What are you talking about?
You read me?
You may find yourself wide awake in the early hours of the day. And you may find yourself locking your radios on to Bradley J.
WBZ News Radio 1030.
The following message is brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
The inherent right to work is one of the elemental privileges of a free people. Endowed, as our nation is, with abundant physical resources, and inspired as it should be with the high purpose to make those resources and opportunities available for the enjoyment of all, we approach this problem of reemployment with the real hope of finding a better answer than we have now.
Your stuff can be more powerful than you think. Your stuff can be a resource for change. Donate to Goodwill, where your donations help fund job placement and training for people in your community. Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org.
Going to Girl Scout Camp is a treasured chance to get out and explore the delights of nature and make friendships that will last a lifetime. Girl Scouts of Eastern Massachusetts offer a variety of camp options for every interest and is available for all girls grades 1 through 12. For more information on camp, visit hercamp.org or call 617-350-8335.
Hey, soldier, do you know who's in command here?
Yeah. We gotta talk.
Well, when can we talk?
Over there is a very capable radio. Radio? Get me someone on the other end of that radio.
It's Bradley J, you know.
Bradley J. J talking.
You hear him talking on your radio.
I can hear you. WBZ News Radio 1030.
Paul Reed Smith, guitar. Carlos Santana. 617-254-1030, my friends. Okay, here's your question. Simple. Not abstract. Are you a fan of fracking or not? You hear about the evils of it, but, it doesn't bother you up here that much, does it? You're getting that sweet, cheap natural gas, and look at the price of gasoline. Which is more important to you? Cheap energy or sort of the earth? Jim, and let's first reintroduce our guest, Joel Wood, Clean Energy Campaign Organizer for Clear Water Action and Emerson grad. We go to Jim in Maryland. Hi, Jim. How you doing?
Good morning, Joel. Good morning, Bradley.
What's going on?
I'm a senior operator at an NRG energy plant, one of the biggest coal burners on the mid-Atlantic states.
Okay.
Do you have any faith in fluid gas desulfurization scrubbing technology?
Can you say that again? I didn't get the complete sentence.
Fluid gas desulfurization, FGD technology.
Oh, good. That's because it was not a complete sentence. What about that stuff? What about those things? Huh. He said some words. What was it he was talking about? Maybe we can stitch together what he was trying to get at.
So I think he was talking about a specific technological, so desulfurization.
First of all, what kind of NRG is what, a coal plant?
No, it's an energy company,
Okay.
right? But I think what he's talking about was a technological basically fix to remove some of the pollution from a power generation facility. My brief sentence without hearing, unfortunately, we don't have more context from him. My brief response is that, of course, with existing power generating facilities, we should do anything we can to filter out the pollution, right? We also want to be moving in the clean energy direction.
Okay.
So we'll leave it there for now unless we get more background.
All right. It's kind of fuzzy for me. I mean, I even study it, and it's a little fuzzy. Fracking. Tell me about it. What is it? And I'm guessing you think it's not good. Why is it not good?
Sure. Well, I mean, first of all, let me just start off again and say we need to be moving away from fossil fuels. So whether it's fracking or not, we've got to start advancing the clean energy solutions. And by the way, it's not just about, good for the earth versus good for the consumer. If you're investing in clean energy, you're eliminating certain costs like buying fuel, you're producing energy closer to home. So there's actually plenty of economic benefits that, especially as we scale up clean energy, we're going to see more and more. But to get to your question, fracking is a unconventional now actually it's becoming more conventional, but horizontal drilling. There is in the process of doing that deep under the earth, they're accessing certain shale that was previously not accessible for drilling. So where they're exploiting another layer of resource there. Some people think that's good. You're getting at a bigger supply. Some people don't because of simply that we need to be burning less fossil fuels and extracting less of them. But also,
why do we need to be burning less?
I think particularly because of climate change. And just to throw out there in the Massachusetts context, we have a debate about building more pipelines, or investing in clean energy, or doing a mix of both, or importing hydropower. All these different things. We have a state legislative policy that requires us to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And we're not really in line to meet that goal, and certainly won't be if we build out these pipelines, which do lead back to the Marcellus Shale where fracking is happening. Again, with fracking, though, so there's a couple of concerns. One has to do with the lack of...
What can you tell me about the way it actually works, the mechanics of it?
Again, it's... You're literally drilling deep and drilling horizontally.
Right, but there's more to it than that.
Sure.
There's the hydraulic factor where you have to throw in water and chemicals highly pressurized.
Yeah.
And that does what?
I will
Why
say,
is that bad?
It's so a number of the issues with it, right? When you have a chemical cocktail that you're not particularly certain of what chemicals are in there,
right.
You have had in numerous so you have casing on the wells and there are a number of instances where there has been leaks of the fluid, that the fracking fluid that they use.
Right.
There's also methane pollution at the site of extraction. This is something that the federal government's really working to regulate right now, is to try to reduce emissions that are coming not just when you burn fossil fuels, but actually when you extract it or transmit it.
How come the people that live there allow it? Is this land taken by eminent domain, or do the people say, okay, yeah, frack away?
I think in the case of fracking, it's very different state by state.
Yeah.
I think you do have a number of. What's been interesting is you have a number of municipalities, including in states like Texas, not just across the country where they're fracking. But in places like Colorado or Texas, the municipalities that are saying, hey, we don't want people to frack here, and then sometimes they'll have conservative state legislatures that then override that.
Mm-hmm.
So it does become a state policy in this case of kind of allowing the drillers to have access to that land.
Against the wishes of the locals.
That's maybe the case. I'm not going to say that's always the case.
Okay.
Now I want to pivot that to Massachusetts for a second. Right now we have pipeline proposals. Gas pipelines, not oil, but gas pipelines, do get eminent domain. They through federal policy. So supposing the proposed gas pipelines are improved, they will go through conservation land, wetlands, also across residential policy.
Don't they go through rights of way already existing in many cases? That was my understanding from the last night's discussion.
They may or may not. It very much depends. The Kinder Morgan pipeline, for example, is through a lot of protected lands.
Okay.
not so much through rights of way. Other pipelines may do that. Again, that's one concern. There are many others.
What are some of the others?
Well, again, the emissions that are related with that, the fact that we're moving away
the
from our
emissions
goals.
related to gas.
Yes.
The pipeline. Now, can you explain how the emissions get into the air? Is it through the actual burning of it, or is it through leaks in the pipes?
Both.
Really?
Yeah. So of course, when you go to, if it connects to a power plant, it is burned and then that goes into the air. That's simple enough, right? If it goes to an export facility, which seems more and more likely that some of these pipelines would go.
Depending on the price of natural gas elsewhere.
Yeah, but you can look at the press from just a couple of months back, and you'll see Canadian LNG terminals waiting for New England pipelines. So there's no, it's not a mystery there. It's not some conspiracy. It's very clearly that the Canada and perhaps Maine as well are looking at this as a real possibility. And what's concerning with that, on the one hand, about marketing this as cheap is, of course, if you connect something to a global market, there's that potential for exports for that to really screw with the price that you've said you were going to offer people. But also that one of the ways that we're financing this is by a public subsidy. So Governor Baker and some Democratic legislators as well have proposed essentially a fee on your electric bill to finance these pipelines.
Why do we have to do that? They'd build it anyway. They want it so badly.
Well,
that's my thought.
What's interesting, I think that if these projects get built, the companies should certainly be the ones paying for them. Unfortunately, they've created whole financial deals that basically require this subsidy. So, you'll hear people talk about subsidies for renewable energy, but we're actually in the process in Massachusetts of proposing large new subsidies for fossil fuels, multi-billion dollars over years. In a way that's completely unprecedented. Not only that, but you talk about any investment in energy, right? You do some up front, and then you'll see something later. And hopefully, the argument in any case is going to be, are we going to save money, down the line?
Right.
But
that all said, I throw this out.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you this right now rhetorically, because I'm asking the folks. Yeah, but gas is $1.93, and that's huge. There's the abstract. Yeah, a little gas seeps into the air, but it's $1.93, and that's real and right now, and it's an important factor for many people. And so I'll ask you to address that, but I'm going to go to the telephone now.
Sure.
And Mike in Reading, say hello to Joel Wool. Hi, Mike in Reading. Hello, Mike.
Hello.
What's going on?
Just another night in paradise.
What can we do for you?
Well, I've been listening to your guest speak about fracking, and my guess is this gentleman's obviously a very young guy.
Obviously, from the sound of his voice, or because he's against fracking?
No, just based on the information that he conveys to all of your listeners. And I'm sure that...
Does that make him more likely to be right or more likely to be wrong?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. But what I do know is I haven't heard anybody tell me anything about fracking that has affected our planet. And as far as him worrying about the atmosphere, there's 70,000 scientists that say that what the government is producing as far as this green effect is wrong, and the people that are jumping on that wagon are people that are taking money from the government.
All right.
These crazy reports.
So you're exactly the guy we were looking for. This is what you were trained to do now, Joel. Answer this guy's questions.
Well, thank you for calling.
The first thing he said was, hasn't seen anything that affects the planet, I believe.
Fracking.
Caused by fracking. Go ahead and answer that. I know you're saying, what?
No.
You have to go ahead and answer.
Let me tie that into the last part of the conversation. Yeah. So I'm gathering that the gentleman who's calling has some questions about whether climate change is real or whether it's caused.
That was one.
Well, I think it's related. I think it's related to the whole thing. So, we can disagree here. I think you have about 99% of scientists saying that this is a real phenomenon, that humanity is contributing to it, and that this is about, so when you're talking about fracking, right, it ties back to all the way, you have emissions at the site of extraction. You have also, when you bring the fuel to power plants in our state, you have emissions from those, and these are tied into that, absolutely. If you want to side with the absolute minority of people who are, of scientists rather, who are saying that this is not a man-made phenomenon, that is fine. I'm going to pick the other option here, which is that
you're going to stick with the 99%.
In this case, yeah, certainly.
Okay.
Hey, Joel, just to be curious, what publication do you present or information you present that represents this 98 or 99% of the people, the scientists?
So the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change would be one.
Thank you. The Intergovernment Panel, the people that are paid by the government. Would that be correct?
I think that is an internationally respected body of science there.
What we're going to do is this. Mike, you are, a very good caller and asking some very poignant questions, and you deserve more time. So what we're going to do is take a quick break, because we have to right now, and we're going to let you continue. It's BZ. Thank you.
Update. Blame those low oil prices. That's what market analysts are saying about the recent tumult in the U.S. stock markets, including Wednesday's latest 1.6% sell-off.
It's a blessing and a curse. We certainly benefit at the pump. But if you live in an energy-producing state, you're starting to worry about your job. You're going to see a lot more layoffs, and there's going to be a lot of bankruptcies in that sector.
David Nelson of Bell Point Asset Management. What about all that extra cash that motorists now have to spend? Will that ultimately fuel overall economic improvement? Well, time will tell. And in the meantime, CBS News' Jill Schlesinger says, don't panic.
The reason why you shouldn't actually do something is that what are you going to do? Are you going to sell into this? And even if you're right, that could be fine in the short term. How will you know when to get back in?
Asian stocks had been up most of the day, but just ahead of the close have turned lower. S&P futures up a point, suggesting a higher opening on Wall Street. CBS News Update, I'm Jim Chenlevey.
Here's another natural way to stay healthy from Johnson Compounding and Wellness.
So, are you ready for a winter of snow shoveling?
Not yet. My back's killing me.
What? What's your back hurting from?
I think it was from too much raking and getting ready for the winter.
Ah, you're a wimp.
What can I do?
Well, you can try Topricin.
What's Topricin?
Topricin's our #1 selling homeopathic remedy.
Is it dangerous? Does it smell?
No smell, no burn, just really, really effective.
How do I use it?
Well, you put it on 3 to 5 times a day to those areas that hurt, and presto, you'll be better in no time.
So once I start shoveling, if my arms are hurting or legs are hurting, can I use it there too?
Well, once you start shoveling, you need to make your way to my house to shovel for me as well.
Oh, yeah, that's going to happen.
Johnson Compounding and Wellness. Stop by the pharmacy in Waltham at 577 Main Street. Call 888-335-5577 or online at naturalcompounder.com. Johnson Compounding and Wellness. The advice and products you need to stay healthy naturally.
All afternoon, 3 until 8.
The man accused of murdering Bella Bond,
Diane Stern.
Michael McCarthy, blames in part the child's mother. The case moved to Superior Court.
Jeff Brown.
Oil prices continue to fall, closing at $30.45 a barrel. That is at a new 12-year low.
The News Watch never stops.
WBZ News Radio 1030.
Nice weather we're having.
Weather as good as they say.
It's better.
We got the weather all right.
What's the weather report?
26 degrees. Excuse me. Today, mostly sunny and brisk, high 30. Feels like snow, huh? Mainly clear tonight. 17. Oh, it's cold again. Friday, high 30. Okay, now Saturday. Oh, it's the big unknown. Increasingly windy with snow arriving in the afternoon. Continues into Sunday. Total accumulation of around 6 inches. There is still uncertainty on the track and uncertainty on the accumulation. High Saturday 33. That's high 33. And a low Saturday 24. High Sunday 32. It's now in the mid-20s. Peabody, Brockton, Tewksbury, and Nashua, New Hampshire. Okay, so we have Joel Wolf from the Clean Energy Campaign. We also have Mike from Reading. And Mike is a climate change denier. And so we didn't quite get a chance to finish the conversation, so Mike is still with us. Okay, Mike, where did you leave off? You had a question for Joel.
Well, I had asked him about the scientists, the 98% where he got those facts from.
Okay.
But I didn't hear his clear answer.
And the clear answer is?
Again, what we were talking about is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And I understand Mike, who's calling, has some concerns about
a conflict of interest?
Sure, if that is the case. Now, what I'll say is, you can go to any, I think science departments, any university, and you'll see research on this. But I would also just want to say that if you actually look at what is happening in our state, in our world, this is not a remote thing. There are very real changes in agriculture, in many other areas. And an example that I like to draw on in Massachusetts is you have oyster. You have a number of fishing and marine industries, right? And you have diseases hitting some of the marine life that has never been seen in this far north. That's shutting down oyster beds in our state. That's a public health issue, and it's also an economic one.
Well, are these related? Are you saying these are related to
absolutely related
water?
To climate change? Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
And what about just the fact that if you look at the temperatures over the year, it's warmer. This is the warmest year so far, and most of the warmest years have been recent. On the other hand, this is something I don't get. Maybe you can help me with this. The ice in the Antarctic is getting thicker. How do you explain that? I'm not a climate change denier. It seems to me that it's getting warmer. But I don't understand that whole Antarctic ice getting thicker.
Bradley, how was the climate change last year with you?
How was it with me? It was
let's take today.
It was okay. I tell you what, why don't you let me finish my question? You interrupted. Can you understand the Antarctic ice getting thicker? You hear that? People measure it. How does that happen? I'm sure you can explain it.
No. So one thing I don't claim to be is an expert on things that I'm not. I don't claim to be a climatologist. I don't claim to be an expert on the Arctic. What I would say is that weather is oscillating more frequently. It's not just about warming, right? It's about more faster changes in more extreme weather.
I would answer my own question. It would be,
please.
Just because that one spot is getting thicker doesn't mean the rest of the planet is getting cooler too. You could have one spot get a little, it's just a change in patterns, and that pattern might focus some cold down there, but overall, in the much larger sense, it's much warmer because glaciers and ice packs, Greenland and all, are melting at a fast clip. And you can measure that the sea level's rising, and you can just measure the temperature overall. Now, Mike, you said, asked me a question about how I liked last year.
Yes, just take today, a year ago. How was the climate then? Was it the warming climate?
Well, here's the thing. Just because it's a particular way in one time at one place doesn't mean it's that all the time.
That's exactly
we look
my
at
point.
The larger sense.
That's
if it was cold here, it happened to be cold in Boston on February 1. That doesn't mean that on the rest of the world is also colder that day or that year.
Well, I'm going to take a guess, and this will just be a guess on my behalf. One, I would ask Joel to start saving his candles so that he can see when he's in his house when we get to the point that he wants to be at, because that's where you'll be. And two is, I'll bet dollars to donuts he either works for a nonprofit or some organization that's subsidized by the federal government.
First, about the candles. Why would he want candles? Because those are
he doesn't want you to have any.
Those are very fossil. They're very dirty way to.
Any fossil fuels. He doesn't want you to have any nuclear.
Well, candles are a very dirty source of energy.
No, I think what the question. Sure, the broader question, is one that's a lot of the public is asking, is right. How do we keep our lights on in a time of power transition? And again, some of these power plants that are older are shutting down largely for economic reasons because coal power, for example, is not economical. But what I can say is that we see that we can. So the Attorney General put out a report recently that shows that we can keep the lights on using mostly energy efficiency as the new resource we're adding. In other words, just saving more power for large consumers is going to be a way that as some power plants shut down, we're going to be able to handle the energy transition.
I wish I had time to talk to Mike more and find out why he's so angry. though I'd like to find out the root of his anger. It seems like he feels like there's a conspiracy of some sort. And I mean that with all sincerity. And maybe another time, Mike. Let's go to Rick and Quincy. Rick, you're on WBZ with Joel Wood, Clean Energy Campaign, talking about getting fossil fuels and the fossil fuel infrastructure gone, looking into the future for clean energy and clean water. And you have my question overall is, hey, fracking. A lot of what we're dealing with is the result of that, including these couple of pipelines that they want to slide into Massachusetts. What are your thoughts on fracking and the results? It's WBZ and Rick in Quincy. Hi, Rick.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hi.
I just had a couple of points. I guess one is a question and another one for a topic. Maybe you'd do something nice. But could you tell me, is that major leak that's out in California that they're talking about, it's going to take like months to cap? Is that related to the fracking?
It's not. I don't know if it's related to fracking directly, but it is a large gas infrastructure leak, and it is a fascinating phenomenon.
What's going on? Tell me a little more about what's going on out there.
There's so recently there is a leak in California and in some of the gas infrastructure there that's considered to be a huge percent of the total state's emissions. It is incredibly large. It's incredibly difficult to repair, and it just surfaced a couple of weeks ago, I believe. And I regret being on the East Coast here that I haven't dug too deeply into it. But what I'll say is that a friend of mine, Nathan Phillips, who's a professor at Boston University and did a lot of research on gas infrastructure here, including particularly gas leaks, drove out there with another former gas industry consultant, Bob Ackley, and is doing measuring there, I think, right now, or just did a week or so ago. So it's a really fascinating scenario.
Okay. Rick, anything else?
Just one thing. Maybe sometime you could cover, it's like a book and a movie. It's called Crouching Tiger by Peter Navarro. Just for a topic,
What's that about?
How China is kind of insidiously...
Oh, it's a China book. Sure, Rick.
Yeah, that's like with the stock market today. I mean, you can see it's going haywire.
Right. That's a good idea. A good idea, man. Thanks, Rick in Quincy.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Now, do you encounter sort of angry opposition like you see with Mike often? I mean, you don't get out much, right? I mean, you pretty much stay within your community.
Oh, no, not at all.
So you do run into Mikes a lot.
Certainly, yeah. And it's people coming from different places. Honestly, a lot of the people that I disagree with, we're actually quite cordial, though. For example, we're Clean Water Action, where I work, and many of my colleagues at other organizations or people who are just community members, don't want to see these pipelines built.
Right.
We also do a lot of work in partnership with the laborers union, right? And they do want to see these things built. That we also work together on things like energy efficiency and green jobs. So it's like I said, this is a disagreement. We're not usually, kind of opposing each other on science. I think many of us accept that climate change is real.
What do you suppose, Mike's, and folks like Mike, where does their anger stem from?
Well,
they think that's a government conspiracy to what?
I think that there's a number of people have posed questions around, particularly about international cooperation around the government pushing initiatives top down. But I think people should make their own opinions about what the federal government should or shouldn't do. In this case, we have what is effectively a national security issue, which is rising tides, changing weather, massive changes to our economy. To me, that's something that the federal government should be involved in. Other people feel differently, right? But you can presumably talk about security and monitoring and all these other issues that the federal government and people do raise concerns about that. So I'm not gonna blame Mike the caller earlier for having concerns about that.
I sometimes feel though that some people, like Mike, will be extremely against anything that comes from the government, even though, without even examining what it is. Like, the government may not be wrong all the time, and there may be an occasion when they're right. And it seems I think he's probably just an anti-Obama, anti-government conservative guy that hates everything that comes from this Obama government. That's my thought. You mentioned public health and local economies, how they are affected by this issue. Let's talk about that right after this quick break here on WBZ.
I got to talk to you privately.
Say, who is this talking man? Bradley J. J Talking. WBZ News Radio 1030.
Learn French. Take a pottery class. New Year's resolutions are nice to make, but if you're a small business owner, sticking to them could be the difference between the status quo or having a breakout year. Maybe your goal is to keep better financial records or target new clients. The CBS Small Business Pulse can help with your goals. Built in partnership with Office Depot Office Max, the CBS Small Business Pulse has the tips, insights, and inspiration you need to help your small business grow. Go to cbspulse.com now. That's cbspulse.com.
Okay, let's say you're sitting at home when one of those TV shows comes on about the environment. You know, greenhouse gases and air pollution. You get all conflicted because you know it's important, but hey, you're just one person sitting at home watching TV. Well, with Energy Star, you can be part of the solution. The fact is, your home can cause twice the greenhouse gases of your car. It's true. That's why the EPA urges you to take action at home to help protect the environment. Start by replacing 5 lights in your house with ones that have earned the Energy Star, having your heating and cooling system checked annually, and looking for products that have earned the government's Energy Star. These are only a few ways you can help reduce your home energy bills and make a big difference in the fight against air pollution. Discover more steps you can take to reduce air pollution from your home and car at EnergyStar.gov. And thanks to Energy Star, the next time one of those shows comes on about the environment, you'll know you're making a difference.
What time is it?
Oh, grim look night, oh night with hue so black, oh night whichever art, when day is not, oh night,
When the night
I want you to listen to me.
has come
Is there nothing else you have to say?
and the land is dark.
J Talking.
He's smart.
Bradley J.
Talk to him.
WBZ News Radio 1030.
26 degrees. Joel Wood, Clean Energy Campaign, organizer for Clean Water Action. By the way, Mike did bring up something we didn't address. Mike was a caller that opposed your view. He said, you work for a government agency. Is that true? It's a nonprofit, but not a government agency.
That's right.
How do you get your money?
So we're Clean Water Action Against a national organization. We have thousands of members in Massachusetts, about 1 million across the country. So it is a mix of direct donations. So we have a field canvas. We go door to door. And some people get annoyed by that, but some people actually quite like it. We have a canvasser in Western Mass, Steve, who's been knocking doors for 20 years. He's really seen family, seen kids grow up. And if someone else knocks these doors, right, they'll be like, "Where's Steve?" So we do have that, and then we also have some foundation support. And I want to respect. I think. When we're arguing against a business or another whether it's a nonprofit group or sometimes what I would say is a front group, we look at their funding sources. So I think it's not unreasonable to do.
It's a fair play.
Yeah, absolutely. But so we, like I said, we have a mix of a lot of members and we have some foundation support, and I think we feel good about where that comes from.
So public health. How is public health affected by this issue?
Yeah, so public health and fossil fuels. I mean, the basic thing, right, that I would say is when you have gas power plants or what's called compressor stations, so, stations that are necessary to basically pump the gas along the pipelines, you have emissions. You might have things like sulfur dioxide that can contribute to certainly asthma and also increase the risk of a lot of, worse health impacts as well. Your heart health, many other conditions.
So there's enough of these emissions near a station, so you would breathe them in?
Yeah, you can look at, for example, so in Bristol County, right, southeastern Massachusetts, where they've had the largest coal plant in this case in New England for years, right, you also happen to have so the American Lung Association grades counties of the United States by air quality, and so the Bristol County's gotten an F multiple times. It's not unrelated, right? You also, you go up to the Merrimack Valley, you have a lot of incinerators. Again, you have major air quality problems, and that can be true in other places as well. But Holyoke, where they've had a large power plant, that also has tended to have poor air quality. So that's one major thing about this is the air pollution, both from power plants but also from from other pieces of infrastructure as well. Now, on the extraction side, on the fracking side, you also have kind of an undisclosed chemical cocktail potentially leaching into water. And that's that there have been a number of incidents of that across the country. That's definitely something to be concerned about.
So we're talking about we have talked about what we don't want, what you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
Fossil fuels. Well, we need to heat and we need to power our Apple devices. So what's the alternative as far as you're concerned?
Yeah, again, when we're talking clean energy, it's not just one. You can't think of it as just one resource. It's multiple resources. So the first best thing is energy efficiency. The simple way of that is just wasting less. So that's both insulating homes, that is changing out your light bulbs for more efficient ones. There's also things like what are a little bit more complicated with things like demand response. And basically at the grid operator level, you can, at times of stress, you can have large power users kind of agree to, let's say, dim all the lights in their factory or whatever it is that they're doing to reduce their power. But so there's both efficiency.
They do that, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And we can sort of continue to build both on the efficiency side and on the that contract.
I know that's one of the upsides of gas as opposed to some other things. You can ramp it up and ramp it down rather quickly.
Well, that's interesting. That's a separate issue, I think. But that is true to an extent with gas power plants, I believe. To talk about some more of the clean energy solutions. So we're talking efficiency, but we're also talking solar. We're talking wind. We are talking instigating offshore wind. Really, really making that real. And this is somewhere where we have a huge amount of opportunity.
What about you talk about offshore wind?
Yeah.
I'm bothered by the environmental impact of those windmills. I mean, they're
what specifically you're referring to?
First, it kills a lot of birds.
Well, it's interesting. The Audubon Society has looked at that, and they've said, again, going back to the air pollution issue, air pollution kills a lot of birds too. If you actually look at when you think about it, you build wind turbines, you take a lot of pollution offline. They've found in researching this that sure, there are responsible ways to site turbines, but if you actually reduce pollution by siting a lot of clean power, that's actually better for wildlife.
So the birds that get whacked by the blades it's just tough luck for them.
I gotta say that nothing's perfect for sure, but when we're talking about, we do need to have power, and we want to make the choices that are the best overall for humans and for the environment, right? Not just like the trees, but also the wildlife and the conditions that allow us to have a future habitat. Humans have a habitat, right? We gotta make some choices. In this case, we gotta site clean energy responsibly, but we also gotta site it somewhere.
Do they make noise if they're near? I'm curious. If there is one near your house, does it generate noise? Does it generate an electromagnetic field or anything like that?
So I think there's both real concerns about this and misconceptions. Absolutely, you should not put a wind. So again, we're moving more to like land-based wind.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't put it right next to someone's property. But
you see them around town and everything.
Well, you can. I mean, so there's one. I live in Dorchester, so down the hill from me, right by the Electrical Workers Union in Dorchester, you can see a wind turbine there. There's nothing wrong with how that's sited. It's not right on someone's property, right?
Okay.
Or no one's sleeping right next to it. But some of the other concerns that have been raised, we believe that the science shows that there's not this kind of public health from wind turbines. And that aside, the major change we're talking about in Massachusetts right now, again, is maybe some land-based wind, or maybe buying a little more power from land-based wind in Maine, but also building wind far offshore, so out of sight.
Good.
Yeah, far. No, extremely far. It's pretty far offshore.
That's what I want, because I really don't like to have my view of the ocean. I mean, there's something magical about the view of the ocean, something important to the human being, the human body, I believe.
I don't disagree.
And I'd hate to just go to the beach and look at a bunch of wind turbines.
I think they're pretty small when they're in the distance, and they don't bother me personally. But if you're concerned about that, I would just say that the projects that they're proposing south of Massachusetts, including Block Island in Rhode Island, where they're building right now, they tend to be further away, and they've had a good community process, I think, around with Block Island. So
I hope we can keep them far out. Well, how about solar energy? What?
Yeah, absolutely.
How's that doing? Is it ramping up quickly? Is it cheap enough? Does it really work? Why doesn't everybody do it? Why are there any buildings that don't have 100% solar panels in the roof?
Yeah, so there's a couple issues there. But let me just say that the cost of solar has fallen dramatically over time. So the actual producing the panels, that's gone way down. A lot of the restrictions on getting more of it is it's political. It's about policy. And you think about it this way: you have utility companies, right? Let me go back to that. You're used to paying your bill. Your meter goes a certain way, then you pay however much your meter went, right? How much energy you used. Things like solar kind of reverse that. So you sell energy back to the grid, your meter winds the other way.
Mm-hmm.
Utility companies don't really like this math.
Right.
They're not crazy about it. So what they've been trying to do is both restrict the growth of clean energy, distributed energy like solar, but also own more of it themselves. And in Massachusetts, they're actually not allowed. They're generally not allowed to own what's called generation power plants, for example. Since the 90s, they haven't owned power plants, and they can only own a little solar. But they're both trying to push back on what basically communities and municipalities can own, and trying to own more themselves. So we're not too wild about that. We're locked heads constantly on that issue. But
I would think that building materials, you could build an entire building, walls, ceiling, roof, out of solar material. Well, I mean, wouldn't that be grand? And why is that not happening?
Well, I'm going to say that would certainly be grand. I think we got to get some structural engineers in here to
some of these new buildings.
Ratify.
There are 3 big new buildings coming up. Why aren't all the windows in those solar panels? Semi-transparent solar panels.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. I mean, we do really need to think about from the municipal level. Having building codes and processes that mean that buildings get developed that are ideal for solar, and then going ahead and putting clean energy there. Mm-hmm. One thing we also really need to be doing is more things like solar farms or what's called community solar gardens. So one of the major issues has been how do we get more access for renters and for other people who can't put solar on their roof. Maybe they have shade, maybe their roof is facing the wrong way. So in Massachusetts right now, we have actually pretty great policies where you can buy into a solar garden off-site. But again, these are very much under attack by some of the utility companies, unfortunately by Governor Baker, even by some of the Democratic legislators. So we're in a big
it's a big tussle.
Yeah.
You said tussle at the same time I did. We have time for a call from Nikki in Groveland. Nikki, hello.
Hi, Bradley.
Hi.
How are you? Hi, Joel.
Hello.
Let me just say, Joel sounds like a very articulate young man, and he needs to be more informed if he's going to take a format on the Bradley J Show.
Uh-oh, what did he miss?
Well, I'm kind of with Mike, but not as rabid.
No, what did Joel say that you feel showed him to be uninformed?
At the beginning of the show, I closed my eyes, and I heard a young... Are
you conflating young with uninformed?
No.
Because just because he's young doesn't mean he's uninformed. Was there anything he said that was wrong or missing?
He really didn't go into any specifics that you were looking for, Bradley. I know you're trying to inform yourself of the subject, but he's not really giving you a thing.
Well, he just
seems like an EPA spokesmouth,
An EPA spokesmouth.
Yeah.
All right, Joel. You got to let Joel, respond to that. Thanks, Nikki. Okay.
So Nikki, thanks for calling. What I want to say is, let's have a conversation. What are you looking?
Oops, he's gone.
He's gone.
We're
gonna
have to have a one-way conversation.
Well, I just want to say, I mean, if you want to talk energy issue by energy issue, I'm happy to do it. What I say is, I'm here in Massachusetts. I grew up in this state. This is where I'm from, and what I want to see is that we put forward an energy mix that protects people and that also keeps money in the state. Right now, we are spending billions of dollars to buy fuels from other states. Historically, we've done that as well. So historically, we've sent money to West Virginia, to Columbia to bring in coal. Now we're looking at doing that with gas and hydropower. I think that let's take climate change out. Let's take climate change out of the equation. Let's talk about just keeping energy dollars in our state. Right? You're not going to do that unless you build more renewable energy here.
Perfect. Perfect timing as well. Peter in Westwood, I don't have time to get to you, but I will do the best to address your question on my own after this break. Thank you so much for coming in, Joel Wood, from Clean Energy Campaign, Clean Water Action. It's WBZ News Radio 1030.
Hi, I'm Christina Applegate. When someone you know is diagnosed with cancer, it can leave you speechless.
When you don't know what to say, there are real ways you can stand up and show that you care. Listen without judgment or giving advice. Be specific about how you can help, like delivering a meal or babysitting. Educate yourself about the diagnosis. When you understand what a patient is going through, you're better able to help. Visit showthatyoucare.org to learn more about how you can stand up for someone that you love.
WBZ and HD, WBZ FM HD3 Boston, and CBSBoston.com. This is WBZ News Radio 1030, where the News Watch never stops. The News Watch never stops.